You are witnessing a front three-quarter view of two adults sharing a tender moment.
Welcome to ScapeChatz episode 10, a podcast about Farscape. We are watching 2 episodes this week, or we did, and we're going to discuss them, and they are called Nerve and the Hidden Memory. My name's Alan, and I'm here with Magellan.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. I'm doing this whole beginning out of order, and I'm just really out of sorts, but we're moving on. So we're going to start with Nerve.
You sound like you're hiding from Grace.
There was a lot of hiding from Grace.
Or you sound like you're in the prison cell with John and Lobot.
PK Lobot.
I don't remember his name.
Oh, the guy with the face. Yeah, I remember that.
And you're like rapidly trying to explain something to them before the guards show up.
Guys. So the episode was written. First of all, Nerve, season 1, episode 19, was in fact written by Richard Manning and directed by Rowan Woods.
Wow.
I thought. Yeah.
Those guys
and it aired,
have done other things.
And it aired.
Sorry.
Oh, this is the first episode that aired in 2000. January 7th, 2000 to be exact.
Wow.
Yes. I liked it a lot. I thought it was fantastically directed, and it led into another fantastic episode. And what did you think about it?
I agree. I think I had my expectations a little high for these episodes. Because it's like, oh, these are the good ones from season 1. This is like last stop before we get into solid, great Farscape times. But they were just pretty good. You know what I mean? I think this episode introduced a lot of things that are going to become huge and hugely cool. And so that may be why some people remember it as very good. Or at least
it's why that one best Farscape episodes list you found had pilot on it.
Well, I mean, every list has to have the pilot on it just because you need to watch the pilot. But, yeah, basically. Like, it seems like you couldn't have a rest of Farscape without this episode.
Both of these, to be
both of them, right, both of them.
Because they kind of work in a pair.
That's true. Now, Richard Manning, I like getting to know the writers and directors.
Me too.
Stuff. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about both these fellas. Richard Manning, the writer, has written 2 other episodes so far, Throne for a Loss and That Old Black Magic.
Oh, yeah.
Throne for a Loss was that bad one where Rigel got kidnapped.
Yep.
And then That Old Black Magic was... Oh, was that the fucking one
That was the Crace battle.
I hated that episode.
Yeah, he doesn't write great episodes. But he's getting better.
This one was good, though.
Yeah.
And he become an executive producer, this Richard Manning fellow, it looks like.
As do most of the writers, yes.
True. Rowan Woods, director of this episode, was Man in Bathroom in a Human Reaction, in case you wanted to know that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good to know.
There's also, this isn't a huge spoiler, there is an episode down the line where there's like fantasy, it's like a fantastical reimagining
that's season 4 actually.
And he plays the male version of Zahn. I think every character is like gender swapped in or something, so that's who this guy is.
I just looked at a picture of it. That's what Rowan Wood looks like, I guess.
He's directed Back and Back and Back to the Future, which was that weird Dargo time travel sexy lady episode that was okay, I think. Thank God It's Friday Again, which is an episode that I really liked at the time. It was that weird rice field one.
Yeah, I have a feeling that one doesn't hold up.
No, I bet it doesn't, but I remember liking it a lot when we watched it.
Yeah.
And then he also directed A Human Reaction. So he's on an upward trend, this guy.
Rowan Woods, I don't know if he's the one, but I recently was reading articles about how they're working on a new like Farscape movie or something, and it's one of the directors that we've like seen a million times before. I don't know if it was Rowan Woods though, but it was basically like some quote from Rockne S. O'Bannon being like, "Oh yeah, we are in talks with that director, asking if he wants to come back." And
whoa, cool. Remember.
So yeah, they're getting the gang back together, I guess, in some capacity.
That's interesting.
But this episode, in fact, is a continuation of last week's A Bug's Life technically.
Yes.
So last time we saw Aaron Sun, she was stabbed in the chest and wrapped up in Terry the silk blanket, and she seemed like she was doing all right last week, but then it turns out, oh no, that knife wound pierced her peripheral nerve.
Yeah, just another bit of sebation physiology that is arbitrary.
Yeah, and the gist of that was like, oh, this is one of those parts that won't regenerate, and so I'll probably die unless we get a tissue graft from a donor.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, right from the get-go, this episode starts with a cold open is like a punching bag scene, which is a pretty standard way of starting a weird episode. Like, oh, this character is just going to be really mad and then punch really hard. And it's shot okay, which continues the trend of this episode, which is that it's shot okay, but features some nice, like, framing.
That's a typical Farscape conceit, also. That we start the episode with a character acting out of character. And that is what gets you into it. Like, that's always
that's
the
accelerator.
Which I don't know. I guess that works. You need to have some kind of formula, but it also... There are times when it wears thin. Like, the one that comes to mind is that episode where Dargo's pacing around the ship, and he has, like, sebation... Or, not... He has Luxon hyper rage or something.
Yeah.
You remember that? And he's like, Crichton, where I want to beat you up.
I still don't have the Crichton clip on our soundboard yet. That's also like the episode where Crichton's like, screw you guys, I'm out. And that's the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But in this one, it also has barf.
Does she barf?
Yeah, she barfs.
A lot of barfing on this show. She really likes barfing.
I took notes this week for the first time.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
And my first two notes are boxing Aaron, cool. And then the second one says, yay, barfing.
You're taking great notes. Keep it up.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have... Look at Crichton slipping into a traditional leadership role. Because as soon as it's like, oh, maybe we should just let her... Like, maybe she's just dead. Is what a lot of the rest of the crew kind of agrees on. It's like, oh, bummer. But, like, I guess that happens. He's like, no, we don't need her die. Sorry, I don't know what accent I accidentally developed.
We don't need Bodabi.
We're not letting her die. Screw that. We're going to go on this dangerous peacekeeper ship, the Gamak base, which is the team that the people from last week were going to.
Right.
Using those coordinates. And so the episode becomes a sort of infiltration mission with him and Chiana on the base.
And to be fair to the rest of the crew, they're being pretty reasonable. There are times where the whole thing of, like, maybe we just let them die is not that cool, and it just seems artificial. But here it makes sense, because they were all former peacekeeper prisoners, and what John Crichton's saying is, let's fly to a place full of the people that imprisoned you before, and let's go inside of it. Yeah? You want to go?
Yeah.
And they're all like, no, we don't.
That's a bad idea. We're all dead.
Because also there's no guarantee of accomplishing anything. Because the thing he's looking for is not like medicine, as far as he knows. It is like a tissue sample of an internal organ.
Which means that he's looking for a voluntarily, like a volunteering or a volunteering sebation.
Yeah, that's not just going to be lying around. And
you gotta go out of your way for that.
If it wasn't for the PK ex machina that we get in this episode, I don't know what Crichton's plan was, like how he was going to get this thing.
I think he just pushed against the wall and said, okay, we have to do something. This seems like the only thing that'll work.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I'm just saying that the crew, sometimes their objections are self-serving and kind of like, come on, guys, just be cool. But this time it made sense. And I also wanted to comment on that opening scene, that conversation scene, by saying that they really cranked the Farscapeisms up to 11. Because Rigel, at some point in there, said the sentence, and I don't know if I transcribed it correctly because it was all gibberish, but he said, "You're not just Farbot, you're Magna Farbot."
Ah, yeah, I remember that. Oh, man. It's so Farscape.
Yeah.
And it's charming. But moving on. I loved, speaking of charming and Farscape-esque, I loved Chiana's traveling outfit.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, we're going on a field trip. I got my cool, black leather thing. She just always has cool outfits. I'm going to keep the Chiana outfit update of the week. I'm going.
Even Crichton had a cool outfit.
Oh yeah, he finally got that cool combat armor that we saw in the thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then I noticed a really interesting transition once we shifted to the Peacekeeper base. Just the cinematography got way better once we were there, and I think it might have to do partly with set design and just it's easy to frame shots that are color composition wise are all red and black. This whole base is red and black, and everyone's wearing red and black. But just framing wise, there's a scene right when Crichton gets on the ship and he's talking to one of the guys who's checking to see if he's legitimately because he's posing as Lorak.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that's checking if he's actually Lorak, and the way that it's shot is Crichton's looking at the camera talking, and then the guy that's supposed to be talking to him is looking at the camera. So it's both of them are. It's first person shots from the opposite direction both times, and it looks so cool. There's a lot of just little moments like that I'm going to keep mentioning in this episode that impressed me. But then we pretty quickly get into what's her face, PK Tech Girl.
Yes.
Galena.
So there's a little bit of fooling around and role playing before she shows up.
Oh, right.
Because, first of all, John Crichton must have taken an improv class or something. Because motherfucker is really good at role playing.
Totally.
We saw it in that Dargo episode where he plays Dargo's nemesis.
Yep.
You remember that one?
Yep.
And he's also just really good at saying the right sort of cruel peacekeeper thing to get past the guards. And with confidence, which is weird. I don't know. He's just a little too good at pretending to be a peacekeeper.
Yeah.
But so
I don't know if he's just hung out with Aaron's son too much or what.
Maybe. I don't know. But he is playing this part, and Chiana is sort of his sensual concubine, I suppose.
Yes.
That's the role that she's playing. By the way, Chiana, I think, is now fully Australian in accent. I think she's not trying to do the British thing anymore.
Yeah, she's transitioned.
Which was a point of contention in her first episode.
Yep.
So they go into that weird cantina.
Oh yeah, was that whole scene before what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so. The first instance.
Oh, I love that scene.
Which is just the room where they turn the lights down really low and then put glow sticks on all of their extra furniture, and called it a cantina.
Easy.
Yeah. And John is hobnobbing with the peacekeeper, the old peacekeeper dude, and Chiana's flirting with all the other peacekeeper dudes. And I don't know. You said you liked that scene?
Yeah, it reminded me of Mass Effect, which has a lot of extended scenes in that exact sort of environment, and it gave them a chance to just really play with their roles, which is kind of my favorite thing about this episode was how much Chiana and Crichton got to be their characters.
Yeah.
Especially Chiana. When she's flirting with all the guys, and a bunch of them are hey, how much can I, how much would it cost me to just buy you off of your buddy? And they're all still very stuffy, so they don't want to just flirt with her or be drunk monsters with her. They're still trying to be kind of kind. I don't know. It's an interesting balance that they have there. I just like everything about the acting in that scene, really.
I thought at times they laid it on a little thick with Chiana being I'm the flirtatious one.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's the kind of energy that no other character on the cast is going to bring. So it makes sense that they over-exaggerate it with her a little bit.
Right.
And they also didn't make it the reason that the plan got fucked up, which is good. Because I wrote it.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes oh man, she's being really flirty. If that's the thing that tips them off, that she is flirting with somebody and she says something that alerts them, that would have annoyed me.
Yeah, because this show has dealt plenty in fake tension. We talk about that basically every week, and that could have been a very easy, they're going to build it up and then drop the ball.
Yeah.
But they don't. At least not in that way.
Let's see. So they do that. Then John's all right, time to go to my quarters that they got for me because I'm Lorak. Wink, wink, wink. And
wink, wink.
He and Chiana go, and they say, okay, cool. before you can go to your quarters, we just got to scan your ID badge again.
Oh, that was a great scene.
And they do that. And that was real tension.
Yeah.
That was legit because they scan the badge. It's like, okay, the badge still works. And then they're like, all right, cool. Now we just got to take a quick DNA sample. And he's like, what? Just put your hand there and we got to take your DNA real quick.
And his way of diffusing it is to just be like, no, how dare you? I'm your superior. How dare you? And they're just like, dude, if you are who you say you are, then this would take 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. No reason. Your authority means nothing here.
Right. So you think as an audience member, that's the moment where the whole thing falls to pieces.
Goes up in flames, yeah.
But then he puts his hand on the thing and it works.
And you're like, what?
Yeah. And they let you think for a minute, what happened? Why did that work? And then he gets into his quarters, and in a typical John Crichton fashion, he's like, huh, that worked. Cool. I wonder why that worked. And then knock, knock, who's there? Oh, it's PK Tech Girl. Oh, she did it. Oh, she's going to fix all of our problems for the whole 2-part episode.
Yep.
She's going to be the reason that we succeed because she's cool. Good.
Every single thing that goes well in this episode is because of her.
In both episodes.
In both, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So she shows up, and for those who don't remember, this is Jelena, the girl from the episode called PK Tech Girl. She was the PK Tech Girl, Peacekeeper Tech Girl, who John met on, what was that ship called? It was Rigel's friend was on it. Durka was on it.
Yeah. They know the episode. They can watch the episode.
That would be a waste of a reason to watch that episode. What was this ship called?
It's a great episode.
I know, but just if that's your motivation, like, I really want to know the name of the ship. And as soon as they say it, you turn the episode off. Like, all right, good, done.
Well, whatever. It's the ship from that episode, and it's that girl, and that's the first time we saw her, and we're going to keep seeing her. And she's a tech girl.
Yes. And she's helping out John because she likes him a lot.
Yeah, she wants to smooch him.
Yeah, she wants to smooch him. And he says, well, Aaron's son's dying. We need some organs. She says, okay, I'll go get those. And then she does. And then I'm skipping around, but I think this is the core of the plot, what I'm going through. Chiana goes back and flirts with people again.
Oh, wait. One of my favorite lines from the episode was right here. Sorry.
What is it?
She's talking to the guy, and he's talking to one of his other friends, and he's like, go away, I'm flirting. And then he's talking to her, and then she's like, oh, you're going to buy me a drink? Or like, I have a drink already. And he goes, Reslac? We can do much better than that. And he pulls out the like cool cylinder. But the way the general guy pops open the bottle is so cute. He's just like the most confident that you've ever seen a Peacekeeper on the show be. And it's weird. Like, we don't get to see the Peacekeepers be funny very often. And I just really like that line.
That's cool.
But yeah.
So... Sorry. I'm looking through my notes because I realized that we missed something, but it's going to tie back in right here. So the PK Tech Girl brings the thing. Basically an organ sample, but in like a needle that can inject into Aaron. So super easy. Thanks for solving that plot point, Jelena.
Which, fun fact, that type of syringe is exactly the type of syringe that we use in Biolab. It's just repainted red and black because, God, this episode loves its red and black. And from like a prop perspective, I thought that was just cool that they were like, oh, we're not going to make a new weird like sci-fi syringe. It's just the what syringe.
Well, because that syringe already looks kind of weird and science fiction-y because it's so tech.
Because it's got that weird point on the end. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because it's a syringe that is used, but it's not the kind of syringe that you would see if you go in for like a physical. They're not going to hit you with that.
It's the kind that you would put like a sample in and then put it into something else, like a test tube.
Yeah. So he gets that, and then John's like, all right, peace. I'm out of here.
Deuces.
And he goes to the hangar area, or he goes to find Chiana or something. And then...
I'm telling you, we got to watch these episodes closer to when we record.
Well, it doesn't matter. If you don't remember it, it's not that important.
That's also true.
And... don't start with me.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
You're trying to start a little bit of a thing. And all I'm trying to say is that John Crichton's walking around outside, and guess who walks by?
Me?
No, it's Scorpius.
But we don't know his name yet.
Well, yeah, we do. It's Scorpius.
Oh my god.
I think
Scorpius.
they say it at the... Because here's the thing that we missed, is that first scene in the bar place, Scorpius walks in.
And everyone's like, oh, crap.
It's Scorpius. And the general guy or whatever is like, I gotta go. I gotta go talk to him. I'll see you later. And what would you say Scorpius looks like?
A bondage zombie.
Good. That's good. I would say a bondage vampire.
Also good.
Yeah. Scorpius is a weird guy. Weird looking guy.
I'll probably make him the thumbnail of the episode.
That's good. And he is going to become the villain, basically.
Of the whole show.
Of the whole show. And he walks in, takes one look at John Crichton. He's like, that guy is not a Sebacean.
Which is so awesome.
Yeah. Because apparently he can sense the like energy signatures of different species or something.
Yes.
That's like one of his powers. And so they capture John. And he hides the syringe thing. And then he gets captured. And there you go. Now he's locked up. And then what happens?
And so now he's locked up, and then we get introduced to, well, two things. There's the prisoner in John's cell with him, correct?
Yep.
Who at first just seems like the typical crazy prisoner who's like, get out of something. He just like kind of is screaming incomprehensible, garbled nonsense at John Crichton. John's like, oh, this guy's weird. Okay, never mind. Mm-hmm. And we also get introduced to the Aurora chair.
Yes.
Sorry, just something tickled my leg. Probably a monster. The Aurora chair is a torture device used by Scorpius to extract information from his prisoners. And it's a really cool prop because it's basically a chair that's on like an elevated platform that spins. And it manages to look almost sort of like the chair from Clockwork Orange with the eyes prying open and all that stuff.
Right, yeah.
But it's like it has that feel. And the idea is that like he's extracting memories from them and then displaying them on the screen. So it's got that going for it. But my favorite thing about that whole like room and prop is that Scorpius immediately can establish himself as like a physical entity and not just a voice and a character, because he engages with John on the Aurora chair very early on. Like John's put on the Aurora chair like, oh, we're gonna get the information out of you. Why are you on our ship? Blah blah blah. And he jumps on the chair with him.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, you didn't have to do that. It's not going to help you, but he's just, like, the chair's doing, like, its little rotation, and then he jumps on, and he's like, hey, he's just looking John Crichton right in the eye. Hey, man, what do you got to hide? Why are you lying to us? What are you doing? Like, oh my god. He's, like, a little bit manic. He's kind of funny, but he's very calm, Like,
yes.
Whenever there's a lot of trouble that happens to him in this episode and his crew, but he never loses his composure.
I love that. I think that's so great. He has that line very early on into that scene where John Crichton provokes him and he's like, oh, you're not going to like lose your cool. Or maybe Scorpius is like, oh, you think you're going to make me lose my cool. And then he says, I long ago learned the advantages of patience.
Yes.
And it's like, woo. All right, this guy's going to stick around. Because
this show has already had
Crace is the opposite of that.
Yes.
He's so impatient. And
Crace is all id.
Yeah. And this guy's like, no, you're in that chair and there's nothing that can get you out of it except if I want you to get out of it. So I have no reason to get worked up. We're just going to stay here forever and I'm going to torture you forever.
And get all the information out of you.
Yeah. And that's cool. Because that's scary when a villain is so self-assured that you can't affect them emotionally.
And even after everything that happens in these episodes, like, we don't end up with, like, Scorpius is just pissed.
Yeah.
Even when he starts to take a little bit of a loss. And I like that about him, because I'm all for the sort of, like, crazy, theatrical, wacky villains. Mm-hmm. I think plenty of those work. But it's not very often that you see the villain that's, like, just completely composed.
Yeah.
And that's really unique. Like, a lot of the show is basically, like, sci-fi, but with a really unique twist on it. He has a hot redhead sidekick that I really liked.
Yep.
Oh, so we're gonna just keep jumping around because I don't want to stay on this forever. But like, the visual of him pulling memories out of John Crane's head is that we just basically get a Farscape demo reel.
Yeah.
And you were saying it's your favorite. It's like your least annoyed use of recycled footage on a TV show.
Yeah, it's the best way that they could have done a clip show. Is with the chair.
Because it really is. It occupies like a decent percentage of the whole episode. Is like flashes of scenes.
I mean, it's a total of maybe a couple minutes of old footage, but yeah, it's a big part of the plot. Yeah.
We get stuff from the pilot. We get stuff from just all of the major episodes. We basically see every villain in there at some point. They're all like 1 second flashes. And then we get, is it Crace? Is that how he finds out that Crace was involved?
Yeah. Well, no, I think yes, I think that's true. Crace is involved somewhere in there.
He sees like the duel and he's like, oh, this guy probably knows about him.
Or what it is he sees the memories of like, okay, you were with those people who escaped on that Leviathan. I know that Crace was looking for a Leviathan, so it's probably you. So I'm going to bring him in here.
Yeah. And then the episode is using these scenes and then cutting back to sort of much lighter scenes because it's kind of dark, this idea that you're just putting this guy's entire life, or at least his entire life in this dimension or whatever, on display. And kind of yanking them out of his head. But then it cuts to sort of lighter scenes like Chiana is hanging out with the PK Tech girl, hacking their way around the base and trying to... Once Crane realizes that he's going to be captured, he throws the cure for Aaron's son into like a little crevice. And he tells Chiana, like, hey, here's where it is. And you and PKTG, which is what I called her in my notes, you guys can go find it and get it because I might not be out of here alive. And they're like, wait, what? And he's like, sorry, bye. And Chiana gets a change of hair at one point. Was that in the first episode or second?
It was in the first episode. And that scene where it's like, I put on my disguise. And then PK Tech was like, I bet not even John would recognize you. And then you look and it's just Chiana in a really bad black wig.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is not fooling anyone. You still have your pale gray ass, what's it called? Nabari skin.
Yep.
Like nobody's getting fooled by that.
There were certain camera shots where it looked like they lightened her pigment though. And I was like, wait a minute, did they make her white? What are you doing? And then no, it was like, oh, it's just weird lighting.
Well, I think there was some pigmentation alteration, but not a lot.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't enough to look different. She just has a bad wig on. And we also got a quick scene of basically the only B-plot. I remember this, actually. This was hilarious. There was Aaron and Dargo share a tender moment where she's like, yeah, I'm probably going to die. And he's like, don't worry, we're going to hold out for you. And he goes in to hold her hand. And it's such a... I feel bad, like, because we're about to make fun of it. Like, it's such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you know, this physical contact is a thing that is a really easy metaphor for companionship and friendship. And that's a thing that people who respect each other do. Is they hold hands sometimes.
Yeah.
But he holds her hand, and then it cuts to, like, a close shot of their hands together. But you remember that, like, even though he's a Luxon, he's just a human with, like, fucking gross human hands, like with hair on them, and you're just and the hands just clasp, and you're like, oh god, it's a guy in a mask. It's a guy in a mask. It's not a, like, it just immediately rips you out of the immersion of that scene.
Yeah,
I don't know what his hands should look like. For some reason, I pictured them as like Zoidberg claws, but
I think it's just that
anything.
His hands are like, they don't look like warriors' hands. Is what it is.
They're fairly delicate.
Yeah, they're delicate hands. Which, as a man with delicate hands myself,
as a man of the hands delicate,
that's cool. That's fine for some things, but it's not. It doesn't work for Dargo. Like, I'm not a warrior. You wouldn't
believe it or not.
You wouldn't buy me as a warrior, and I'm guessing that Anthony Simcoe out of makeup maybe is not warrior-esque. Although I don't know. But yeah, his hands just look too human.
Which is a bummer because, for all sorts of reasons. Anthony Simcoe, confirmed, does not look like a tough guy, but he does look cool.
I'm looking him up.
Anyways, while you look that up...
That's not the only scene on Moya, though.
Oh, well, yeah, there's the like, almost crucifixion scene with the healing device.
Yes, so it's basically a series of scenes with people by Aaron's sickbed, And it starts with her wrapped in the warm embrace of Terry, the terry cloth blanket. And Rigel's hanging around. And he's like, "Oh, Aaron, you're sick." She says, "You're just here looking for my stuff. You're
looking for parts.
You want to take my stuff." And he's like, "I don't want to take your stuff. And anyway, all of your stuff sucks." So that's what I figured out.
So screw you.
Goodbye. And then Dargo comes in. They share a tender moment. Cut away. And then when we come back, they've come up with the great idea of Moya is like sucking the poison out of Aaron. Or something.
Which is a temporary. So it's like diverting the killing her. It's like slowing it down.
But
basically.
Really rad, like kind of an arbitrary thing of like, oh, we're going to slow down the clock of just stuff that we made up so that it's slower, which you don't feel that as a viewer because you're not basing tension on the time they made up. You're basing it on how many minutes are left in the episode.
Right.
But a really cool in-universe use of Moya's identity as a biological entity. Like, she has a pulse, and you can hook up her heart, essentially, to this person to pump poison out of them.
Yeah.
Which is just a cool idea.
And what's also cool is there's just so much good continuity in that scene, too. Where one of the first questions somebody asks when Pilot's like, yeah, so we're going to do this whole pulling from Moya's energy to keep Aaron's son alive. And they're like, what about the baby? And he's like, the baby is like 99% of the way out there, which is kind of their little foreshadowing also. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't need that much energy. She just kind of has to pop it out at some point.
Yeah,
so
and
we
also, like, dude, Moya's huge. Like, don't worry about it.
Also, yeah, this is like a fraction of her power to keep this lady.
And in those scenes we get, I think Dargo is the real MVP of this episode. Well, no, Jelena. Jelena by far is
the overall episode
is doing the best. But Dargo is being the coolest because he's there for Aaron, and she's doing the whole thing of like, I'm a warrior and I want to die alone, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I get that. And then he comes up with the idea to preserve her life. And Zahn's like, yeah, this was... And then Dargo gives her the look. This was Pilot's idea. It wasn't Dargo's idea. And then... she's like, why didn't you want me to tell Aaron that it was your idea? And he says, well, she said she wanted to die alone, but come on. I don't think she wants to die. And I don't think she even wants to die alone. And I thought that was...
she doesn't.
I thought that was a very sweet line. And it shows how much of a softie Dargo is.
Yeah, but he's like becoming another one of the good emotional cores of the show.
Yeah, which you wouldn't have anticipated for a while on this show, that Dargo would be the one who's sweet. But he's probably the person who became loyal to these people the quickest and the deepest, honestly.
Well, because he respects their fortitude and their willingness to keep trying things.
Right. But
everyone kind of immediately immediately respects John in that scene in the beginning of the episode because this is a person that he clearly has intimate feelings for, and he's already established himself as capable of saving people in times of strife. So none of them are like, no, Crane, this is stupid. They're like, you know what? Just go. Good luck, you know?
Yeah. I think what it is a lot of the other characters, the reason that I like Dargo in this role so much and that he arrived at this role so quickly is that a lot of the other characters have excuses to detach themselves from emotional situations, I think. So John Crichton's thing is like, space is crazy. I don't even get all this space junk. And Zahn's thing is like, oh, we have to be serene and like, yes, Aaron will die, but that's the way it has to go.
That's life, yeah.
And Rigel doesn't care about anybody because he's Rigel.
His middle fingers to the world!
And so it's up to Dargo to be the guy who's like, we need to be honorable and like respect our comrades and care for the people who fought by our side and all that. Which is, I think that's a great dimension to that character.
It's much appreciated for sure.
Yeah. So back on the Zelbinian, that's the ship. That's what it was called. It's not where we are right now, but the Zelbinian was the ship from PK Tech Girl.
Yes.
Where we are right now is
the PK base.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. I forgot.
I'm not going to look it up. I know what it is. I'm not going to look it up.
And John's being tortured. I'm grappling with the question of, is Ben Browder a good actor?
Well, okay, he's in the chair. You're talking about, right? He does a lot of weird manic acting in that,
like really weird stuff.
It was creepy because he's like, at one point, he's like, "Get all the information out of me. I don't care. I have nothing to hide." And then he's like twitching and like screaming and like almost drooling, and you're like, "I don't know. Yeah. Are you fake? What is fake?
Right,
What's real?"
That's what
like,
is the thing of it is. John Crichton is the kind of guy that you wouldn't put it past him to fake being affected by the chair a lot. So you can't tell if Ben Browder is acting as John acting or if he's acting as John being hurt. Because we have no concept of, like, does this chair hurt?
And really, we've got a lot of scenes of John, like Ben Browder acting with John acting, which is like such a hard task to ask of an actor to like play someone who's being fake but make it seem.
But he honestly, Ben Browder does better with that stuff than he does with just being John Crichton.
Which is being real, yeah, pretty much. I think he's improved since the beginning. If you ever go back and watch some of Pilot, then you will immediately be like, wow, he's working on it.
He's not bad. It's just he has a very limited range, I think. And so, we're not super limited, but just like he has certain things that he does really well. And being tortured is not one of those things that he does believably necessarily, like the way that you would expect it to be done, but it's one of those things that like he brings something to it that other people wouldn't bring to it, which is maybe what the point of Farscape is not being the best, but doing the thing that nobody else would have thought to do. And that's the charm of the show. But so he's doing some crazy acting, and one of my favorite line readings of his is after the big plot revelation, which we need to talk about, which is...
I got that here in big letters.
So Scorpius is digging around in his brain, and he finds something. And what he finds is a conversation between John Crichton and Jack the Ancient.
Yes.
The Ancient that we met in A Human Reaction, who took disguised as his dad, and who they had that beautiful heart-to-heart at the end of that episode about finding home, and we loved that episode.
Yeah.
So what we find out here is that there was a part of that conversation that they removed from John's conscious memory, in which the aliens showed him the secrets of wormhole technology. But they were like, hey man, we're going to show you these cool secrets. You're not going to remember them. What's going to happen is they're going to subconsciously point you in the right direction for like what you should be looking into. And you need to be smart enough to figure it out so that we can...
And we believe that you're going to find
it on your own. But like, we like you, so here are some hints, basically. And Scorpius is like, oh, you're doing a little wormhole stuff, huh? Well, I guess that's why you're here then, huh? And then John Crichton's like, oh, this is a wormhole place, huh? And Scorpius is like, yeah, okay. You know this stuff. You're a spy. And then my favorite line reading is John Crichton goes, you're trying to create a wormhole.
Oh, yeah, because he's like a little loopy.
And he's just laughing about it.
That was a great. I think that was like a cut to commercials of like manic Higeo.
So this is the revelation: is that the peacekeepers are trying to master wormhole technology, most likely to just destroy things. Yeah,
conquer everyone.
And that is the thing that's going to drive the rest of this show. If I understand correctly, wormhole technology is a big deal in this show. It's like a big overarching concept. Because it's what Scorpius is after, is mastering wormhole technology. Yeah. And so that's why he's interested in John Crichton, is because John has this information.
And what's funny is that's such a better motivation for the show's villain than what Christ had, which is like, oh, you killed my brother, dick, even though you did it by accident.
And it also just feels bigger, and it works as more of a sci-fi thing, because the entire show is predicated on that sci-fi thing's vague. It works more as tying the entire show together from beginning to end, because if you start with the premise of like, I got shot through a wormhole, and you just accept that as fact and you never talk about it, then that's lame, because it's just a contrivance to get a human into an alien world. But if you're like, hey, he got shot through a wormhole, and you're going to have to take it on faith that it works, but nobody knows why, and everybody wants to know why, that's much cooler. Because you get to have the arbitrary, he got shot through a wormhole and here he is. But it also gives you a freebie, huge plot point for the whole show.
And what's cool is it's a plot point that doesn't even just apply to like, oh, the Peacekeepers want it. Like, you can imagine that John would want that, and that everybody on Moya would want that.
And even we've seen other characters who are interested, like, what's her face? Cigar Lady. In the one episode with the sand goggles.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking
lady with
about.
The weird tan. I do, yeah. The lady with the weird tan.
It started with an M or something.
She was cool. Yeah,
it was like a real word, but different.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
So that's what Scorpius gets out of him. But the issue is that John is still putting up a mental block in his mind. And Scorpius thinks that he's hiding either spy information or more information about wormholes, which is why he's continuing to torture him. But the thing that John is actually hiding is the fact that Jelena was helping him. Because if he reveals that, then she's going to get killed. Yeah. So that's why he's continuing. They continue to torture him, and they continue to throw him into the cell to hang out with Stark. I don't think we said his name, but Stark is the guy with half the robot face.
And he's important.
Before we get into Stark, though, can we talk about one of the cut to commercials, which was John, just a close-up of John's face on the ground in the cell, and he starts saying, like, danger, danger, Will Robinson. Do you remember that? He's like, his face is on the floor, and he starts like quoting Lost in Space, but for a while, for like a couple minutes.
Yes, yeah. I knew he was quoting something that I had heard before.
So that is the John Crichton pop culture reference of the week.
That seems like that would date him.
It was pretty dated, and
Lost in Space is from the 60s,
and he was so loopy that it kind of broke the immersion for me, because it's like, oh, he's crazy loopy, but he's still there enough to remember word for word this like pop culture reference. Yeah. But that's whatever. I mean, that's just John Crichton doing his thing. So Crace shows up. Yeah,
Bylar Crace?
He's here. He's got a great voice.
He does. I love hearing him just
wonderful voice.
He's just always like a little growly.
And he's getting all uppity because he wants to see Crichton hurt Crichton. And Scorpius is like, no, you won't hurt Crichton. I need to get some information out of him. But when I'm done with him, you can have him. I'm Scorpius.
Go fucking
Scorpius, I need to see Crichton. I'm Crace.
Here's the thing that's weird to me about that, or not weird, but it's really interesting. Scorpius is like the boss of the Peacekeepers, right? He's like the head Peacekeeper.
Yes.
But Crace is talking to him like he's just some schmuck.
Maybe their politics are weird, and also I thought Crace was pretty high up.
But he's high up in the way where there's like, he's like a captain or something.
I saw it as Grand Moff Tarkin yelling at Darth Vader.
Interesting. I think that's not the way that it works, but if that is the way that it works, then that makes sense. It seemed to me like Crais didn't know who Scorpius was, is what I'm saying. So Scorpius is like a shadowy leader guy who not everybody down the chain knows who he is. But then the cool thing, if that's the way it is, the cool thing about it is that Scorpius doesn't have the moment of like, do you know who I am? I'm Scorpius Noctis, the leader of the Peacekeeper forces. Like, he doesn't need to do that because he's still holding all the cards. He doesn't need to get prideful about it.
There's a character in Game of Thrones, and he's one of my favorite characters in the whole show, named... Well, I can't remember his name because there's way too... Mance Rayder. There you go. And Mance Rayder is this isn't really a spoiler because this is like book 3 and I won't say anything that happens to him, but he's the leader of the wildlings, and he's spoken around hushed terms throughout the beginning, like the first 2 books, and by the 3rd book one of the characters has to go meet him, and this guy's new. This person that's meeting him is new to the wildlings and is like, oh, what's going on here? And he's like, which one of y'all is Mance Rayder? And he goes into like a tent and he sees a dude with like a crazy skull mask. And he's like, oh, hey, man, how you doing? And he's like, hi. Like, the guy kind of plays along with him. And he's like, oh, I see you're the leader. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty high up. Yeah, I'm, like, up there. And there's a guy in the back that's, like, playing on the harp. And he's like, this guy needs to stop talking. Mr. Skull Guy, you're the leader. You're Mance Rayder, right? And he's like, what are you talking about? And then the guy in the back with the harp is like, hi, can I get another drink? And then he like, gets another drink. He's like, hi, nice to meet you. Mance Rayder. Like, he's just like the bard that was in the back that nobody was looking at because he commands enough respect that he doesn't have to tell anyone or present himself or boast.
It's characters like that you know you need to sit up and pay attention to because they're so self-assured that they don't need to play into the trappings of like leadership and things like that. So anyway, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Other thing about Crais, he needs to get a haircut. Just real quick, got to cut them.
Yeah, his hair is getting way too long.
On the run for a while. I wrote a note that said, haha, Crais, you got outsmarted. I'm not quite sure why. Because of the...
Probably
maybe
by
that's possible. Yeah, he might have like out-logicked him or something. Cutting back to our lovely lady friend Chiana, real quick.
Yes.
She's
a couple things
traipsing around the base with Jelena's help. She finds the thingy, the medicine thingy. And then she's about to piece out of there. But old perv guy, recognizes her. He's like, oh, Chiana, you're trying to get out of here, huh? Yeah.
Your disguise is terrible.
Because Jelena, everybody's scattering because Jelena set off an alarm. So again, thanks, Bae, for that. You're the best.
Wow, dude. Really, Bae?
I mean,
okay, whatever.
If you had to assign points, like Bae points, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta earn a certain number of points to earn that title. Jelena is by far just killing it. I'm sorry.
We're gonna move on?
Okay, I didn't realize it would bother you so much.
I'm furious.
You're getting so upset. I'm just trying to show her a little respect. You know what I mean?
There was a scene that you missed that was literally right before this, where Chiana and the PK Tech Girl are talking about, like, hey, what's with this Aaron Sun deal? And Chiana's like, it's weird. And then PK Tech Girl's like, I kind of like Crichton, though. Like, we shared a tender moment. Like, what is his whole deal with Aaron Sun? Are they dating? Is it like a sex thing? Or what is that? And then she's like, oh no. Like, Chiana's like, no, it's not a thing.
Right.
She lies, which I thought was weird.
Why do I think she did that? Because she's a liar?
Yes.
She's a manipulative character. No, she did it because she knew that is what would get Jelena to set off the alarms, that she could get the things, so that she could save Aaron's life.
Oh,
yeah, she did it for a reason. She didn't just lie to lie, smart. But she's manipulative, and she is keen. Like, other characters wouldn't necessarily have recognized that opportunity to manipulate Jelena, or they wouldn't have done it. Because, like, John, if that was the situation, she's like, John, do you like Aaron? That happens in the second episode, where she's like, John, do you like Aaron? And he's like, well, because he doesn't want to say yeah, but he doesn't want to say no.
Yeah,
and other characters would have like honestly answered that question, but Chiana's like, he's free. He's free and open to just date blonde girls right now. He thinks great.
You're super cute.
You're just great. So that's her value on this team, is that she lies from time to time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool. So anyway, she runs into the dude, and he recognizes her. Yep. And her solution to that is to burn him to death.
with the most convenient, like, I'm going to pull this stick out of the ground. It has like a little pipe at the end of it, and then fire comes out. Boom, I did it.
Just real quick, burn him to death.
And they show it. Like, they show a burnt body. And she's like, burnt body, weird. All right.
This guy's name was Javio, by the way.
Yeah, it was. That's the same guy I heard from earlier. I liked him. I'm bummed out that he's gone. Yeah, but him and his bald head. But yeah, that's the extent of her scenes in this episode,
I believe so,
right?
Yeah. Final thing back on Moya. Moya's giving birth, guys, so we can't pump poison out of Aaron anymore.
I call that fake tension.
A lot of the Moya giving birth stuff is fake tension.
Yeah, it's just... I wrote that here, like... This whole like setup for the last part of the 3-episode arc is like, time's running out. I texted you this. I was like, time's running out. This guy likes the other girl. Love triangle. A baby's gonna be born. Just like every checklist of like, here's the thing that makes things really intense. Oh my god. Check. Baby, love triangle, dying, go.
Yeah.
3rd episode. And then, but the episode also ends with, I don't know if you have any more notes from before the last scene.
I have a couple. Two great quotes from Aaron Dargo interactions, which, by the way, Claudia Black doesn't have a lot to do in this episode, but what they give her, she does a phenomenal job with. She is so adept at playing strong characters in compromising situations in a way that doesn't compromise their strength, which I find incredibly impressive because... And in an episode where it's like, I'm dying and I'm in bed the whole time, Aaron, she's damseled, but Aaron's son is still the biggest badass on the whole ship, which is really great. Because otherwise this episode would have really bothered me, especially since I'm pretty sure it did not pass the Bechdel test. Right? Like, it didn't.
I'm thinking. No, it didn't. Nope. Because the only time that Chiana and the girl talk is about Crichton.
And to be fair, this show, I think, fails the Bechdel test a lot. Mostly out of, like, just the way the cast is made up.
Yeah. But it's so much better than its contemporaries.
Right. I'm just saying that it's the thing that it has in its favor is that it has an incredibly strong female character in Aaron's son. And not just in the way of, like, we're going to show this female as a strong female because she beats people up and she's badass and she wears a leather jacket.
And she got
But
guns.
It's like, we're going to show that she's strong because she has a lot of pride. But she's like able to thank people for looking after her, and she can be weak, but still have values and have things that she cares about. And as soon as she gets healed, she can get up and say, "Where's Crichton? Let's go save Crichton."
Right. Yeah. And I hope that trend continues with her.
So Aaron's son, wonderful character. Claudia Black consistently impresses me as an actor. Two great lines that came out of the Aaron Dargo interactions. The first one is earlier on where Aaron's dying and she's like, if a warrior cannot die in battle, she can at least die alone. She's like, oof, that's a bummer. And then the second one is a repeat of a line, I guess, but I'm not sure when it was said before. When Chiana comes back and heals Aaron, afterwards, Aaron's like, oh, so I'm not going to die? And then Dargo says, as you once said to me, you will die, but not today.
Yeah, that's actually the only memorable quote on the wiki.
Which I guess it was in another episode, too. I don't remember which one. But that is a wonderful line.
It is.
Other thing... Plot thing, it would have been quicker if he just brought Aaron to the base with him. He could have injected her there, but we're going to move past that. Ben Browder's got great teeth.
You take fascinating
things that I
notes.
pick up on. And then you wanted to talk about the last scene?
Oh, nothing to talk about. It was a nice transition because we get to watch 2 episodes a week. We don't have to wait. But there was a week wait between these 2 episodes. And the way that this episode ends is Crane's being tortured, and then he does just like an echo scream, like something out of Tekken 2, where he's just like, oh. Cut to end credits. Cut to, please play the next fucking episode.
And
goofy ass waiting.
This episode gave us the first to be continued in Farscape.
Yes, yeah, it's the whoa, and then to be continued. Which is cool, because it makes it mean the show is getting bigger.
You want to hear about the background information? Just real quick?
Yes, I do.
It marks the first appearance of Scorpius and the first appearance of Stark.
Yep.
They're both going to become recurring characters, major recurring characters. I don't know why we need to worry about this, but Kent McCord shot his scenes for this episode at the same time as A Human Reaction, which makes sense because it was in the same place.
Oh, I guess
originally, Scorpius was conceptualized as an insectoid that we would have seen earlier in the first season.
Well, I guess
I like this better, though. It's just kind of a weird leather lizard guy. Leather lizard.
Bondage man?
The way that I'm going to think about it.
It's also a good way to prepare for recording things.
Crichton compares Scorpius to Nosferatu, which is pretty accurate.
Spot on.
Let's see. That isn't necessary. Paul Goddard, who plays Stark, researched Jack Nicholson's performance in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Brad Pitt's performance in 12 Monkeys to play Stark's madness. So he just researched crazy people. That's what we're getting here is crazy.
Well, 12 Monkeys was recent.
At the time, yeah.
Because that's because that was 95 and this was 2000, or probably recorded or filmed way earlier. Huh.
First episode end with to be continued. That is true. Let's see. Rockness O'Bannon is saying something. Oh, he's just happy that there's a new villain, and it's like, oh, you thought Crace was the villain, but he's not anymore.
That's their flip.
And then it seems like the writers called the chair the clip chair as a joke. Like that was the way they referred to it. So we're not too far off the mark. Okay, people quibbling here. Which, this is something that I was a little bothered by. The memories in the Aurora chair are not from Crichton's perspective. They are like camera perspective, which is kind of bending of suspension of disbelief, I guess. But it's not necessarily that bad because you can justify and say like, oh, these memories are constructed and were, I don't know, something. But that bothered me. And so one of the things in the background information is like, oh, we saw a clip of that weird alien from Throne for a Lost that only Rigel saw and Crichton never saw it.
Which, specifically that alien, when I saw it in the clip, I remembered that, God, this show looks like complete incomprehensible nonsense out of context. That, because all of those clips, I was like, whoa, and then there's just like a giant half-lit puppet, 18-foot puppet monster. And I'm like, what? I know what that is. There's a dude in jail. Like, what the fuck is this show?
And then the last background information piece here is Chiana's killing of Javio marks the first time she is shown unambiguously taking a life.
The first time. That's exciting.
Definitely no ambiguity in that murder whatsoever. She straight up burned that dude.
Stone cold.
Well, stone hot. Thank you.
Oh,
all right, the second episode. Do you want to go into it? Do you want to take a break? Or what's your plan?
We'll be right back with the second episode for this week's ScapeChatz. Whee! It's March 2nd, 2016. I'm Alan, and this is the Moy Bag for episode 10 of ScapeChatz. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moy Bag, where I discuss and read and comment on the feedback that we receive on the show. This week, we got 2 really awesome bits of feedback that I'd like to read for everybody. The first one was a series of tweets from user Old As Your Omens, who goes by Grace Sophia, according to their Twitter. They discovered our podcast for the first time just by searching, I guess, for Farscape on Pocket Casts. And they're a fan now. So we have a fan. That's pretty cool. And them and I, we had some good back and forth conversations about favorite episodes and stuff that we said on the show previously that we don't necessarily agree on anymore. And it was just a really good chat. And then a few hours ago, as of this recording, they tweeted, "Listening to these podcasts is bringing back so many beautiful memories and feelings, and just frel me dead," which is such a nice sentiment. Like, I imagine that you are someone who's watched this show before and watched it a long time ago and is a big fan, and we, more than anything, are happy that we're filling the void for people who want 2016's discussion of someone watching the show for the first time. And so that is a thing that we are here to provide. So thank you so much for listening, all the Zeromans. You are what keeps us going. In addition, we received a nice little comment from Domain 101 on the Farscape subreddit, which you can find, as always, reddit.com/r/Farscape. I'm just going to read this. This is a very long comment received, I think, a few hours ago. "I'm disappointed that you guys didn't find more value in Through the Looking Glass. I found it interesting for a number of reasons. It shows how individual the characters are by opening with the discussion of whether or not to abandon Moya. In other sci-fi shows of the time, you never entertained the thought that they'd just leave the ship. Can you imagine Star Trek without the Enterprise? Battlestar Galactica without Battlestar Galactica? For me, that scene nailed down how set these characters are in their goals, that sticking together just cuz isn't really an option. If there's a faster means to their goals, they'll consider it. On that same point, I love how Chiana had different reactions to the various dimensions. Nicely illustrated that they're varied life forms without having to get crazy or techie about the why or how. It was one of the first times you really see them acting as a team in concert. This is furthered in the end scene where they're eating together again, but this time as a family. They overcame a problem together, and the thought of abandoning Moya is no longer a serious consideration, except for maybe Rigel. It was gritty for the 90s anyway. You mentioned all the vomit, but at the time I thought this was edgy. Coming off of Star Trek and other sci-fi of the time, they were relatively tame. Farscape was one of the first shows that I saw that embraced the gross, the sexual, the kinky, etc. Can you imagine a scene of Riker barfing in a turbo shaft and laughing it off? Anyway, you didn't love one episode as much as I did, so of course we're enemies now. Sorry, but it's the internet. You understand. We have cool fans. Can I just say that? I texted Magellan a couple of these comments from both of y'all, and he was just like, "Wow, we have really cool fucking fans." That comment's great. Domain 101, you make a lot of good points, and not to, perfectly attempt to defend past me, but we were still getting into the show at the time, and we didn't know what to make of it, even at that point where we were discussing Through the Looking Glass. The thing is, like, what's nice about the podcast is that we're always changing our views on stuff, and we are always reassessing things that we used to like or not like. So I like Through the Looking Glass now. It's an episode that I would rewatch because it kind of nails the tone of early Farscape perfectly. And that idea that they all are willing to leave each other was novel at the time. And I think the reason I brush back against that is because I like shows where it's like a crew of people and they're all friends and they all like each other. And I know not everyone likes that, but that's more my style. So at least at the time when we did that episode, I felt like, yeah, they should just be friends at this point. Like, why do they not like each other? Which is funny considering the point that we are at in the show, which is the end of season 2. Everyone's best friends, and everything's kind of sad, but at least we're all together, So, yeah, it's just, we change our opinions all the time on this show because it's so dynamic and has so many interesting moving pieces that, yeah, so, but thank you for that comment. You made a lot of really good points in there about everything. Those are the two main pieces of feedback we got. The other comments in the Reddit thread were mostly me being like, we uploaded the wrong episode when this first went up last Thursday. It was the unedited one with like no Moy bag in it. So if you downloaded that episode and you were like, why does this sound fine but not great, and why is there no Moy bag? It's because I didn't compress it or do any of like the good sound stuff to it, and I didn't edit in the Moy bag. So it's been re-uploaded, and we actually re-recorded the ending, which was fun, just to part the kimono a little bit. You can tell after a certain point while we're discussing the second episode that the audio quality changes. And then I'm like, I agree. And from that point on, we're recording in 2016. That was actually a day that Magellan and I were going to record this Moya Bag as well, but we didn't have either of those pieces of feedback at the time, so it would have been like not a super meaningful one. But yeah, that those are the two main pieces of feedback that we got this week, and just like technical stuff from other people. As always, you can send us email, ScapeChatz@gmail.com. If you have longer form questions that you want to ask and you don't want to make a Reddit account, you can tweet at ScapeChatz, like old as the Romans. And you can follow that account it's mostly automatic episode posts, but I occasionally go on there and answer people's questions and talk to people. Anything else? We plugged our Twitter accounts at this point in the show, which is smart. And I think I plugged the other podcast that we do last week. If you want to hear more of my voice, once every 2 weeks, you can listen to the podcast Fireside Friends, which I do with my friend Ryan, and that is a bi-weekly pop culture discussion show. And we're going to be adding on a third host next episode. So that can be found wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to listen to more of Magellan every week, he co-hosts a podcast called the Stanford Improv Radio Hour, which is an improv comedy podcast that he does with some of his Stanford buddies. That is a really good one, and I recommend it highly. Not that I don't recommend Fireside Friends, but I'm on it, so I would feel weird recommending my own show more than just naming it twice on here. Yeah, I think that is all the stuff I wanted to talk about. These were some really fun discussions. We just got to meet Scorpius at this point, I believe, as of Nerve and the Hidden Memory, and Stark, who we couldn't even name at one for a while. That is always a fun thing. Like, we didn't even know what these characters were called for so long, and now Stark is like pretty important in the show where we are. Spring break is coming up soon, so we're going to be hopefully recording another episode over that week, if our breaks line up and if our schedules line up. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. And people have been asking about what we're going to do with Peacekeeper Wars. We have plans to watch Peacekeeper Wars. We may have mentioned previously that we don't know if we're going to watch it. We're going to watch it, and we're going to discuss it in some respect. It might not be an episode traditionally the way they are now, but it's going to get talked about. Also, a couple weeks ago, I purchased I don't know if I mentioned this in a Moy Bag, but I'm going to re-mention it. The Farscape Season 3 Illustrated Companion, which is where a lot of the trivia for this show gets pulled from on the Farscape wiki. So now I have that. It's a really good tool. I didn't look through it much because it's for a season we haven't watched yet, but it has like breakdowns of every episode and lots of interesting stuff about makeup and casting and puppeting, and it's good. So with that in mind, please enjoy the second half of this episode of ScapeChatz, and thank you for listening.
Oh.
Welcome back!
Oh,
We're here talking about more Farscape, Season 1, Episode 20,
oh goodness.
The Hidden Memory, here on ScapeChatz. Magellan, what did you think of The Hidden Memory? It's the third part of this three-part
It's hard.
saga.
Well, it's kind of arbitrary to call it a three-part saga. I think it's more of a two-part. But it's
it's like
set up by a minor fact in A Bug's Life. That being said, I think it's hard to separate what one thinks of The Hidden Memory from what one thinks of Nerve, because they are pretty inextricably linked, both in terms of plot and in terms of there's a lot of the same set pieces are going on. I think overall, I probably enjoyed watching Nerve a bit more, just because more of it was fresh. And like you were saying, there's a lot of contrived tension in this episode, especially with the birth stuff that is kind of skippable, honestly. But at the same time, things wrap up in this episode that are set up in Nerve and that are very satisfying. And so you can't really say, like, I like Nerve better because Nerve ends in this episode.
Right. And that's my thing, is I can't, like, easily reconcile these, because if I want to say, like, oh, I feel like a lot of crazy stuff happened, most of the crazy stuff that happened was set up in the first episode, but one of my favorite, up until now, Farscape moments happened in this episode.
I'm excited to hear what that is when we get to it.
Yeah. We got our first preview on Farscape.
Tell me who wrote and directed this episode.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm going to do that. Because okay. This episode was written by Justin Monjo and directed by Ian Watson. Just quick. Yeah, man. Justin Monjo is the guy who's supposedly working on the new Farscape.
Because guess what he wrote? He wrote 2 other episodes in season 1.
The Flax and a Human Reaction?
This guy does it right.
Oh, they get it. How long does he continue?
He continues to write through season 4.
Oh, delightful. And he's doing consulting scripts. And the episode aired January 14th, so just a week later.
Ian Watson
2000.
is
It's a name we've definitely heard of.
He's directed They've Got a Secret, Jeremiah Crichton, and Through the Looking Glass. So looks like that's kind of all over the place. Yeah,
house style. Nothing super unique about his. The cool directorial touches stopped in this episode, which was a bummer. There was one just in the last episode, real quick, that I forgot to mention. Just a shot of Chiana and PK Tech Girl, and they were inside of a room, but it was shot from outside of the room through a circular window. Cool. That was super cool. There was a couple.
And
shots
then there was some rack focusing going on with John and Aaron in pain. That cool visual cue that linked the two of them together. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I do love me some good rack focus. I don't like Chiana giving up on her hairstyle. That really bumped me out.
So what happened in this episode? Where do we start?
Well, basically a lot of this episode focuses on what's his name again?
Stark.
Metalhead. Stark is important. In this episode, he reveals himself to be more than he seems. Crichton is in prison with him. I'm just going to kind of pull this from memory. I'm going to do my best. Crichton is realizing, wait a minute, why are you even here? What are they trying to pull from you? Because clearly, we get the implication at the end of the first episode and most of this episode that Stark is enjoying being in the chair. But it might be like a what's that called? What's the thing where you love your prisoner?
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome, yes. Where it's maybe he just likes the pain or something. But we also get the implication that there's something hidden inside of Stark's brain that they
can't
want
get
really badly. Yes. So I don't know. I didn't know how I felt about Stark until that point. He just kind of is establishing himself as the idiot savant, or the crazy guy who turns out to be very clairvoyant in a way. More circle window exterior shots, lots of crazy Crichton, and then the main plot point of this episode, which is the misdirect.
Yes, I think that's getting a little ahead of a few things.
Okay. Well, let
me just. I got a couple things.
Oh yeah. So
I want to talk about Moya's pregnancy. Just zip through that real quick. The whole arc of it in the episode. So the first bit of information we get is from Pilot, where he says, "Oh, she's giving birth, but her baby, it's not a normal Leviathan." And everyone's like, "Oh,
you're what the fuck is normal?
That's weird. What's not normal about it?" And then he's like, "Well, it's covered in guns." Which, go ahead. What were you saying?
It just reminded me of the Simpsons thing where I think Milhouse is no, but it's the episode where all the boys are on their own kind of half of the school and all the girls are on their half, and they're doing drawing class or art class. And Milhouse is like, "Nelson, what did you draw?" And he's like, a robot shooting guns made of guns that shoot guns that explode into guns. And it was like, "Oh, is that what her ship is? It's a baby. It's right, all it's guns.
Pure guns." And that is the one thing about this that is interesting and tense, is that the baby is a weird gun baby.
And but it's not only that, but it's we don't know who it is loyal to.
Because it could just shoot us as soon as it comes out. We don't know.
It's technically a peacekeeper ship. Yeah. Sort of. Just like Moya sort of is.
So the baby's not a normal Leviathan.
So that's that.
We're hanging out on the ship. Or the people that stay on the ship are Chiana and Rigel. Because Aaron decides that she's going to go save John, which makes sense. And
yeah.
This part was weirdly arbitrary to me because they were like, "We gotta go get John," and I think Dargo was like, "Well, I can't go down there. I'm a Luxon. It's I can't just blend in." And then Aaron's like, "Well, then I'm going down." And then Dargo follows her down the hall, and she's like, "Are you coming with me?" And he's like, "If you could be an idiot, I could be an idiot too." It's like, you just had a really good reason to not go.
Why did you change your mind?
And then Zahn is like, yeah, I'll go too. There's the three of us. We'll all go.
Yeah, we'll have fun. I'll bring I'll bring a bag lunch.
And they end up, Zahn and Dargo end up hanging out on the top, above ground, setting up some bombs and stuff, waiting for the escape.
Yep.
Which I guess that makes sense. I don't know. It was kind of hard for me to wrap my head around how this base was structured. Like, why did Aaron have to land on top, and how did she get past the dudes calling her that John got past, and why did he have to land inside, and whatever. It was a different episode, so I guess we can put it out of our heads.
Yeah. So
they're there. Meanwhile, Rigel and Chiana are on Moya, and they have a really fun interaction where Rigel is complaining, and he's like, I've conceived hundreds of progeny. And he's talking about all the kids that he's had. And he's like, but this is nothing like all those births. My progeny were tiny and handsome like their father. And then he's saying that he was never at any of their hundreds of births and all that. Just any quick jokes of how Rigel used to be the worst being in the world are very fun to have.
Yes. And appreciated.
So that's that. I'm trying to see... Okay, cool. Yeah. So that catches us up to the thing that you wanted to talk about, which is, again, another example of Jelena pulling through.
Jelena saves the day. Yeah, TV tropes at it.
If we had to count, she probably saved their asses like 4 or 5 times. In like really complex ways, too.
Yeah. Like she like is spending this whole episode planning how to sacrifice herself and to do things that'll get them out of trouble.
And doing stuff that it probably takes a lot of know-how to do, like rigging the genetic tester thing, and doing the thing that she does to the Aurora chair, which is what? What does she do? I'm talking about the misdirect.
Okay, guys, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen on the show. The idea is that since the Aurora chair is pulling like visual images and audio based on memories that people have, she tells Creighton when she gets the chance to see him, like, hey, I need you to remember us kissing. That's like a good memory for you to keep. And he's like, that's weird, but I guess I'll do that.
He's a little scared by that because that's the thing that he was hiding. Because it reveals her identity and it reveals that she had contact with him, which is the reason that Aaron's son was kicked out of the Peacekeepers.
Yes. And then what ends up happening, basically, if I remember exactly right, it's been a little while since we watched the episode, is that when they do check his memories, he has a memory in there that is, it's technically supposed to be from the episode where him and Christ fought.
Yep.
The one that we talk about. Or from at some point that they were hanging out together. And, is it like Christ thinks he's a peacekeeper, so he's talking to him?
So
why does he talk to him?
You're talking about the fake memory. So Jelena rigs the chair in such a way that when John thinks of the moment when they kissed, it plays something that looks like a real memory, but is in fact was programmed in by her. And what it is John Crichton reporting to Crace. So it makes it appear as if he's working with Crace to get the wormhole technology. And perhaps Crace is forcing him to do it. He's working under duress. So this memory implicates Crace as being the guy who sent John to spy on this base. The Gamak base. Woo! Sorry.
Yeah. I had it earlier and I didn't want to interrupt you to say it, but yes, the Gamak base.
So Scorpius is like, oh, this is interesting. Says here that you're doing this, huh? Crace gets really scared because it is a fake memory.
Yeah, he's like, no, that's not me. Like, that's so perfectly implicating him Because none of them know that you can even do this. None of them know that you can make a fake memory. So he's having this, like, if you really put yourself into Crace's head during that scene, how wild he must be going. Being like, this thing has never been wrong before. But in my head, in my heart of hearts, I know that didn't happen. Why? What? I'm so confused. And that makes him more flustered and sound even more like he's just completely
and so he and Scorpius have this cool power struggle where Crace is like, my men will protect me. And Scorpius is like, this is my base. And I'll kill these guys. So, guys, the Aurora chair doesn't lie. Let's not fool around. We're just going to put him in the chair. We're going to check his memories. That's it. It's no big deal. Okay? Cool. Great. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Nothing wrong.
So they send John back to his cell. They put Crace in the chair. It's all great. And yeah, wonderfully cool stroke of storytelling that was. Great reveal. Yeah.
Because everyone's surprised by it. The only person who's like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen was Tech Girl.
And so
which is great too.
Fully shifts Crace's status in this whole show. Like, brings him way down to just 0 in terms of the power that he can wield. It lets Scorpius still be cool, but also shows that he's fallible, that his self-assurance is, in some cases, a weakness, if it's played off of in a subtle way. And, it gets Sean Crichton out of trouble. And it's smart. It's a really smart, creative thing that they're doing here.
Gets them out of this whole situation pretty easily. So there's that, which I was still reeling from for a little bit. And then we get more of Stark. Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember it. Yes. And we finally get the reveal of Stark's what he has under his mask.
Well, do we?
Which is... Well, that's the thing, is he's like, what is under there? And he's like, obviously. And it's just light.
It's just beautiful just healing light.
Yeah, it's healing.
Or it's not, light. I thought it was healing, but I think it's just calming light.
Or it's like, it's a peaceful light. And what ends up coming of that? What's the point of... Oh, that's the secret, isn't it?
We learn later that it's the secret. John is just like going crazy. And Stark's like, hey, calm down.
Right.
So we see that Stark is not always crazy. Sometimes he's pretty composed.
Which is a great dimension to a character that could have easily been
but so he has this thing where he can just calm other people down by taking his face off. Yeah.
I can do that too.
We all can. Really. Aaron's turn to wear a cool vest, I wrote in here. Dude, what the fuck, Stark's face glows. That's great.
Tell me when you get to the part with Dargo. That's the best part.
The exchange about his blade? I just wrote that it was great. I didn't write what it was about.
Basically, it's like him and Zahn, and he pulls out the Qualtivate, and then she's like, what's up with that? Like, it's kind of like an inverse of the Star Wars line, where he's like, an elegant blade for the line. What am I trying to say?
An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Yeah, and she's like, this is an inelegant weapon for a more civilized age. Like, why do you use it? And why do you use your race? Like, why are you guys obsessed with this like, gigantic flat blade sword? And he's like, well, basically, like, he drops, like, 5 minutes of knowledge about the history of the Qualtivate on her in the middle of this whole... It's like, from a writing perspective, it's kind of fun to write, but it's just awkwardly
it's so
in
random.
here.
Because you could put it anywhere. It's just Zahn's like, what's the deal with the Qualtivate? And he's like, well, it's like a Hanukkah story. You know what I mean? Where it's like our ancestors were stuck and all they had left was Qualtiblades. And that's why we use them. Yeah.
And they kicked ass.
So it's cool to know, and I guess they just couldn't put it anywhere else, but it's a little awkward.
A little awkward.
So that was that part. I wrote in here a note. I wrote, again, Ben Browder is a difficult actor to assess, which I think was about him being in the chair again. But with regards to Crace in the chair, I wrote that Lonnie Tupu does Pain well. He was pretty good.
Yeah, well, because Pain and Anger are pretty similar in terms of acting range. So it's a lot of teeth gritting. and a lot of like almost tears. But like, I was sad for him in those scenes. He just, from this point on in the rest of the episode, he just keeps getting the shaft. Just for basically being in the wrong place at the wrong time and for having a little bit of ambition. He just completely gets screwed over. So they start plucking memories out, which I guess hurts like hell. And they pull out the worst memory of all, which is the one where his dad is like, you guys are going to be peacekeepers someday. And it's like Grace and his brother. And it's the one that we saw a couple episodes ago. And it's like all these really... I don't know. The idea of someone revealing your really personal, intimate, like, these are the things that have defined who I am as a person, memories... And just being like, the fuck is this? Yeah. And next.
Like,
and just being
really
able to fast forward through that. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's That's fucking terrifying. And it's handled really well. Especially, and I think it's actually handled much better in this Cray stuff than it is with Crichton. Because a lot of Crichton's memories are like, I met some wacky aliens, and then we had a big fight, and I talked to them, and they went away. Christ, it's like, my dad is the reason that I'm here. Like, everything sucks because I just had a bad childhood. And
I don't know that Crichton has any underlying insecurities.
Are you trying to tell me that this white male protagonist
No,
is perfect?
not that he's perfect. Like, he fucks up plenty of times. But he doesn't have a thing that weighs on him. I don't think.
I always thought that well, we don't know yet. But I always thought that the stuff with his wife was going to be
I guess, but that's sort of not... It's not enough.
Yeah, it's totally
Whereas
not.
other characters, I feel like, have that sort of thing that weighs on them. Like, Zahn has her intense guilt about whatever, and Dargo has his family issues. Everybody's got, like, a dark past, and John Crichton doesn't really have that. True.
That we know of, yeah.
That's true. So we have him in the chair. We have an interaction with Aaron and Jelena, which I don't remember what they say, but I wrote that it passed Whedon's test and not the Bechdel test. Because again, they were like, well, what's up with
two new characters
John?
together?
And yeah, two new characters we've seen together. Great line when Aaron comes to save John from the cell, and she like beats up the guard. And he's like, oh, Aaron. And Stark says, how many peacekeepers do you know in this base? To Jelena on the communicator in the cell earlier.
Turns out I know 0, but I just know all of the secret ones.
Just quick, let's jump back to Moya real quick. Just for more stupid stuff.
Oh, to talk about...
At some point, for some reason... Pilot has to like suck the air out of the place. I don't remember why.
Oh, it's to make room for not to make room for the pregnancy, but to like
that might be
power.
What it was. So the air is going to get sucked out of where they are. So they need to hide in like an air capsule. Chiana and Rigel, and they got to get in the same one because 2 different ones aren't going to open up. So while they're in there, Rigel farts. He farts helium, which I think was established in the first episode. And we haven't seen since.
Yes, it was.
Since then.
I checked back. Is that funny? You were asking me if we were funny earlier, and I don't know the answer to that, but is this funny?
Know.
The idea that he farts helium and they go, Rigel, what did you do?
I think so.
I just feel like I've seen that like a trillion times. Well, not the farting helium, but the like people talking with helium is funny.
Oh yeah, that's what would be funny about this. I think it's fine. It's a little dumb, and they were using it to fill space, which bothered me because you shouldn't be having to pad for time in an episode this late in the game with so much going on. In a part two. It's like the B plot of a part 2, and it's stupid tension, and you break it up with like...
You literally break it up with a fart. Just for plot clarification, the reason that they had to go in there and the reason that Pilot had to create a vacuum is... All it says here is, Pilot reveals that a vacuum must be created inside of Moya in order for her to give birth. So it's just... Yeah, I was essentially right.
So back on the Gamac base where things matter... Both these episodes, by the way, not a lot of lighting going on that base.
Yeah. A lot of baked lighting, not moving.
We get Aaron going into the room with the Aurora chair. Who's there? Oh, it's Grace. I'm in pain. Owie. Who's there?
Some of the best Aaron Son acting of the whole show, by the way.
And she's like, don't you know who it is? No, let me out of the chair. Hey, look, it's me. Aaron Son. Hey, I gotta get out of this chair. I'm just doing the scene. I don't need to do the scene.
You have done this. I love it.
So he orders her to let him out of the chair. Once a peacekeeper, always a peacekeeper kind of thing. And she says, no, you took my life away from me. You're terrible. I don't ever have to listen to you again.
You're nice.
I think it's probably on the wiki, this whole quote thing. I'm just going to read it. So Cray says, you're a peacekeeper for life on the oath you took. Your oath means... I can't do her Australian accent. She says, your oath means nothing to me. You made sure of that. You destroyed everything. I lost everything because of you. Aaron Sun, do you know what I learned when I was away from you? Everything I lost isn't worth a damn. And I don't want to go back to your past. I order you. You order me. You will never order me again. I will track you down and kill you, Officer Sun. On that I give my vow. And then the best part, where she says, you know what I give you, Crace?
Yes!
Your life. I will make you watch your life. Boom.
Oh my god.
See ya.
Mic drop, end scene, Emmys, crying. I was like crying tears of joy in the scene.
That was great.
Whew! It's intense on both sides. Everything, like, I'm even like looking at the script right here of that scene.
Yeah.
There's such a good rhythm to it. Where he's just running out of things to say, and then his last things to say are to just bite back and to try but to say stuff like I order you, like as if that means anything to her.
And it really drives
so
home
perfect.
how far Grace has fallen at this point.
Yeah. And how we haven't seen a lot of Aaron Son and Grace talking to each other at all, I think. But to finally be reminded, they're like, yeah, so did she work for him?
So.
Is that how that worked?
She was part of his command.
So she's like, yeah, you were the worst boss, and then you ruined my life, and I hate everything about you, and you're the reason everything is bad.
Yeah.
Fuck you. You're gonna live your whole life again, or you're gonna watch your whole life. Which is oh my god! the way they visualize it is that
it's a little cheesy. It's like she's activating the Nickelodeon slime or something.
Exactly, like you pull it a little bit, and it's like, ow, it hurts, and it's one of those like the more you turn off the electricity, the more it hurts, and then she just pushes it all the way, and then dump, and then he just gets a like infinite loop, and then it says like put this on infinite loop or something, and then she leaves, and he's forced to watch his life play back in front of him forever.
Yeah,
what a way to go.
So there's that. Then she finds Crichton, or she'd already found Crichton. And Crichton and Jelena are trying to get out of the base. Jelena... Does she talk to Crichton about it first, or Aaron first? Aaron first, right? About their relationship.
About the relationship stuff?
I think she asks Aaron first. Yeah. So that's the part that I said didn't pass the Bechdel test, I think. Correct. Jelena's like, so are you and Crichton like a thing? And Aaron's response, I think, is like, why do you care, right? Or like, that's not important right now.
Which
like,
I love.
We just need to get out of here. Then there's a point where also Stark splits off from them at some point, and they're like, well, see ya. You go that way. Which is a little inauspicious. But then he comes back during the final fight, so that's...
Yeah, that's the reason he leaves, is so that he can come back dramatically.
So then there's a point where Aaron is separate from Crichton and Jelena, and Jelena's like, so what's the deal with you and Aaron's son? And Crichton gives her the, Jelena, come on,
bubby.
Let's just get out of here. Let's not... I really was bothered by John Crichton in this part. Like, the whole Jelena thing really made me annoyed with him. How so?
How so?
I don't know. I mean, because there isn't really a good reason. You can't just say, like, hey, you should like Jelena, or you should, like, be in love with her, because you can't force a character to feel a certain way about another character. But at the same time, they were so into each other in PK Tech Girl. And she, like I said, has been busting her ass, saving his life 4 times in the past 4 hours. And he's like, yeah, I don't know about that. Here's the thing. Which is good storytelling, but it's just, I guess I really sympathized or empathized with Jelena in this situation, is what it was. And I wanted to see her succeed. So it was unfortunate when they're like at the doorway leaving, and then she kind of just runs the other way. It's like, well, bye. I'm staying here.
I'm outie.
But like, why? It just doesn't make sense that she would do that, because they were going to find her and kill her, probably. And who wouldn't want to just go hang out with the Moya crew? You know? Yeah, exactly.
I would.
So Jelena splits off. They get topside, where it's a weird... It's like a Greek ruin or something. It looked Egyptian. You know? The part where Dargo and Zahn are. It's just like
totally.
So they get up there,
yeah,
and there's a bunch of peacekeepers following them, and then, oh, hey, it's Stark. Oh, this guy's dope. And then he and John are like best buds during the...
Yeah, that was great. They were like gun buddies, yeah.
And they had that great exchange where John's like, yeah, you know what I was hiding? And Stark's like, what were you hiding? And it's like, just a girl that I knew. Ha 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 ha. Oh, those stupid peacekeepers. They suck. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Which was quite amusing. And we got to see a decent firefight, which made me realize that there's not a lot of fighting in this show.
Yeah, well, we talked about this. If this, whereas this show solves problems through communication and occasionally sometimes... Well, the thing is, like, this fighting is not them, like, this is how we're going to solve the problem. It's them getting away. It's an escape fight. So, that is a thing I appreciate, because other shows would have been like, oh, these guys are attacking us, we have to kill them in order for the plot of this episode 10. And in order for us to
but there's just generally, there's not a lot of shooting in this show.
Also, this doesn't happen a lot.
So they have the firefight, and it's going whatever. Then most everybody is getting away, except, who else is here? It's Scorpius. Hey guys, hey John, I'm going to capture you. I'm going to get your wormhole secrets. Cool. Great. Just gonna hunt you to the ends of the earth. You know how it is. After I torture you for a long time. All right, let's go.
Yeah, no matter what. Then, you can't stop me. Sorry.
It's oh goodness, it's Jelena. Another crazy acting moment.
I guess we're all here. Who else wants to come here?
Another crazy acting moment from Ben Browder, where he just starts laughing, and he's like, "Jelena, shoot him!" and she freezes up.
I love that scene
because. If anybody was that close to Scorpius, they would have to, like, take him in for a solid minute before they could do anything decisive. And so he takes the opportunity to shoot her. Yeah, which is...
Bummer.
Yeah.
Boom. In the chest.
So she got shot, which is unfortunate.
Aww.
And then somebody shoots him, and Crichton gets away, and they all escape. And they're all back on Moya. And Moya gave birth.
Well, Scorpius gets away.
By the way, with the help of Chiana getting inside of her birth canal, and there was the kid shot its guns or something. I don't know. I think that is the part where Pilot was like, because at the beginning he's like, it's not normal, and we don't know why, and then it's at that point that he's like, it's covered in weapons. That's what's going on. It's just all weapons.
Oh my God, it's full of guns. Instead of my God, it's full of stars.
Yeah, so Jelena gets shot. And then they're all back on Moya. Yeah, they take her onto the ship. And Stark's there too. Scorpius is not.
I like that he's just there. Like, they never said, like, hey, buddy, come on. He's just like, On the ship now. You guys have snacks? Y'all got any pretzels?
And
Yes, no.
Jelena is now the one in bed dying. And she's like,
Terry gets so much work in
does.
these episodes.
Yeah,
good for him.
Terry.
Or her.
She's dying. And Zahn can't do anything about it. Which, come on, guys.
You guys get to decide when Zahn can do things.
It's ridiculous.
That's not cool.
Like, Aaron's son was dying from a mortal gut wound, and we were able to find her an organ transplant, and this girl got shot by a blaster, and we can't fix that. That seems like the kind of thing that should be easily treatable by Farscape medicine.
Fake tension. Well, not even fake tension, but just fake end of a dramatic arc.
Like, in a dramatic arc where we're trading a life for a life, it's just kind of annoying that the life we were able to save was from a much harder problem to solve. Anyway, but maybe that's appropriate, that like we put so much work into saving Aaron, and then something as simple as a gunshot killed Jelena.
And Jelena is amazing behind the scenes, but as soon as she came to the front lines, it was like, whoop, bullet, done. Sorry.
So it kind of reinforces
she's a
that idea of like, well, best laid plans of mice and men, you know, and we're all of us mortal, basically. So you can't assume that anybody's going to live.
I knew she was going to die from the moment that Aaron's son was like, why do you care? Like, John and I are fine together. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's the death knell of, like, Julia, you no longer fit in the love triangle. They don't care if you're in it or out of it.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Because this is not the kind of show that would have had that going on.
Kept that triangle going? No, for sure.
Because it's so... in a love triangle where everybody's already decided where they are, there's no tension there.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Jelena's dying, and Stark comes to her, and he says, hey, don't worry. Check out my face.
Isn't it sweet? And she's like, fucking
sweet face.
Dude,
and
sweet face.
all we know about it is that it's a place that he went to once. And it's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place. So are we going to find out what that was? Or is it just like...
That has to be what his thing is. I can't imagine us not knowing what it is.
I think it would have been fine if it was just like, oh, it was a heaven metaphor. But, and I haven't read it yet, but I have a feeling that you might get it spoiled in the background info.
It's possible.
This wiki.
But I will brave those waters for you.
As you always have, and as we always appreciate you doing.
So he does that. Juliana's all peaceful. Then he pieces out. And she's like, John, I'm dying. He's like, yeah, you are. Well, see ya. She's like, no, wait. Wait. Just kiss me. Nah, Jelena, I can't do that, really. And then she breaks my old heart by saying, do you think if things had been different, you could have loved me? And, he says yes. And whether he means it or not is debatable. And then...
Right.
It doesn't
matter, though.
Either kiss or... I don't remember. I think they kiss, right? And he says yes, and then she dies. That's the end of the episode.
That's actually, again, a sad moment with sad, beautiful music, and then cut to the awkward ending. But like they are getting better at it. Yeah, this one is very smooth. I get on them.
That moment would have hit me a lot harder if I hadn't accidentally spoiled it for myself. Because after the end of the first episode, I was so into Jelena like helping them out. And I was like, I wonder if she's going to stick around. No. She dies next episode. Sorry.
Well, her wiki page is weird because there's more spoilers on there, too. I just looked at it earlier.
All right.
I didn't.
Background info of this episode, unless you have anything to add about the ending.
Moving on.
Cool.
No, sir.
Background info. There was a power cut in the studio directly after filming the scene between Aaron and Crace. So if you can imagine being on set for that shit, where Claudia Black just rips into it, murders her lines, Crace starts screaming, and then the power goes out. No. Like they nail it.
Scary,
like
then.
perfectly nail it. And Lonnie Tupu is screaming at the top of his lungs in incredible pain. And then the whole power goes out. It's like, oh shit. Did
we do that?
We made media so well that we ruined the power.
The lights go out and they're like...
So they say some stuff that I'm not really processing. They're just talking about design of how they realize the Gamma base and Talon's design. Stuff that, if you're interested in that, you can go read it.
I might read that, yeah.
But I'm just not
internalizing
internalizing it right now.
Right.
So apparently, at some point, John Crichton calls the red-haired girl Peacekeeper Barbie. I don't remember him saying that. But this is another... Rocknius O'Bannon loves Ben Browder. I think he really likes him. Because a lot of the background info is Rocknius O'Bannon being like, oh, Ben made the best choice. Beautiful Benism. So Peacekeeper Barbie is just a thing that Ben Browder thought of and just said. Which is... Sure. That's cool. That Ben Browder is such an all-American guy that he can be like, yeah, I'm John Crichton. This is what John Crichton would say. And it works. Rigel's hand on the fogged window is a reference to Titanic. And it's thought up by the puppeteer.
Yeah, I caught that.
Which is cute.
They're good.
That doesn't really matter.
There's Cyrillic characters used.
And then there's some music from Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage.
Oh my god.
It was used as the background music in the escape scene? That's interesting.
I played Spyro's 1 and 3.
Oh, but not Spyro 2.
So I probably wouldn't have heard that song.
Oh well.
No.
There you go.
It's funny, though.
Overall, 2 pretty good episodes, I would say. And we are officially... I think we're officially in Farscape now. Yeah, we've set up the main villain. We've set up a big, theoretical portion of the show's plot.
Yeah. I think our main Moya cast is as big as it's ever going to be.
That sounds right.
Right. Yeah, we have a villain. We've shedded our first villain. We've shown major character development. ScapeChatz is getting good. Yeah, a couple tragic deaths, but yes, we've had a very tragic death. I love listening to the first couple episodes and then even watching the first couple episodes of the show and then listening to the first couple episodes of this Dumb Baby podcast and being like, wow, both are getting better at the same rate, and this is great.
Yeah, good for us. Speaking of getting better, we're watching 2 episodes for next week. They're the last 2 episodes of season 1 of Farscape. They are called... This first one's called Bone to be Wild. Episode 21. Moya and her unsuspecting crew encounter a carnivorous alien. Alright, guys. Tell me more about the episode.
Yeah, it's even compared to the texts around it, if that's a small summary. But the thumbnail on Netflix is Christ holding something, so... More Christ. Wait, more Christ, but we thought he was dead, or something, or trapped forever in his endless memories. Block and Dragon's because the Lonnie Tupu is way too good of an
2
actor.
things I know about Bone to be Wild. From what I understand, it's a weird, skippable episode in between 2 really good, important end-of-season episodes. And it is this season's appearance of Ben Browder's wife as a weird alien.
Ben Browder's...
she
his real life
shows up
wife
once
as a weird
every
alien?
season as a different alien thing. Yeah,
That's
but
odd.
it's different characters every time. It's just kind of a thing that happens.
Okay, I'm into it.
And then the second episode we're watching is called Family Ties. Episode 22. Ooh. The season 1 finale. In hot pursuit of Moya's crew, Scorpius and Captain Cray set in motion events that will leave all of our heroes fighting for their lives.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say, in hot pursuit of Moya's crew, Christ and everyone else are chasing you. Something like that. Something weird. Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
We're there. Made it. Well, we're going to have
Almost. Yeah.
Almost a greatness. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of ScapeChatz. You can email us if you have questions, comments, feedback, hate mail, pictures of your butt, or whatever, at scapechatz@gmail.com. That's chats with a Z if you're subscribed to this podcast and you do know that. Stay tuned next week for the season 1 finale, and we will see you next week in space. Farscape.